Alright, so hopefully this video squares me up for my absence. But anyway, something recently came underneath my scope, and it was relatively interesting. I was actually delightfully surprised at seeing this in the New York Post. But apparently, a member of the New York City Democratic Council, I think he sits on, what is it called? He's a city councilman. He's a member of the Democratic Party, and any of you that might be unaware, I live in New York State, and to the rest of New York State, New York City kind of looks like a cancer almost, because what happens in New York City, if a law passes in New York City, it passes for the rest of the state, regardless of whether or not we voted for it or not. But that's because most of our voting platform lives within New York City. It's, I think, fairly certain it's the densest city in the United States by any means of measurement. I don't even think I think Los Angeles is even a remotely close second for the amount of people that live in New York City. But that notwithstanding, this post it's from the New York Post. This is in their opinion page, came underneath my radar, and I read the post, and I was like, wow, this is actually pretty relatively interesting and very well thought out, and not very necessarily very well researched, but kind of sheds a light on some of the double standards that exist in some of the regressive mindsets, and especially when it comes to the ultra left and whatnot. But so City Councilman Peter Ko, it's Koo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly or not. He's a Democrat from Queens. Reportedly sent $24,000 worth of city funds to an anti-abortion crisis center called A Bridge to Life. Now, they supply like cribs, diapers, free medical care to women that are pregnant. I mean, not necessarily be able to afford those things, which, from my perspective, seems like a relatively good charity. I don't see any reason not to send money there. Like, you want to send money there, fine. It's not like it's cross burning or anything going on their front lawn. But moving on. After, like I said, they essentially give women access to things that they may not have originally been able to afford. Now, Allison Tan said that this was, a quote from her was, "Your anti-choice, anti-woman positions don't reflect the values of New York City's Democratic voters." Now, my question to Allison Tan is, how is this Peter Ko, or to pronounce it, being anti-woman or anti-choice by simply funneling money to somebody that offers, especially considering they offer these things for free medical care being one of the biggest ones? How can you say that that's anti-woman by any measure of the word, or how you try to expand that umbrella to cover however many people you wish for it to cover? I don't see how you came to that conclusion, and quite frankly, I just found it rather funny, because in my research, I found out that you were vying for his seat in the council. So, I'm not saying that you're shit-slinging, but it looks an awful lot like you're shit-slinging. Anyway, moving on from that. National Institute for Reproductive Health Action Funds. This is from this article I read. I'm reading a quote. So, National Institute for Reproductive Health Action Funds, Andrea Miller, says public money shouldn't go to organizations that lie and manipulate pregnant women. How, where, when, and why would they? What? How are they lying and manipulating to them? They're simply taking money. In this case, from a councilman. For all you know, they could be taking money from Republicans, Democrats, you name it, and then buying these things or offering this free healthcare to women. They're not manipulating these women in any way, shape, or form. I don't understand where you came to this conclusion from. But where did the logic draw? Where did the bridge come from that you crossed that vast canal and got to that conclusion? I don't see it, but I'm not her. So, it sounds an awful lot like, I don't know, she just disagrees with the core concept that instead of aborting these babies, they're taking this woman, giving her either the stuff that she needs or letting these children go on to adoption, which I don't see anything wrong with that choice either. It's like you claim to be pro-choice, but apparently it's only the pro-choice of the choice that you deem right, which in of itself is an ideology, which is the reason why a lot of people that are moderate or on the right look at the ultra-left and see you guys as essentially a religion, a cult. And like I said before, about the only thing that you guys are missing is fucking jug of Kool-Aid and some cyanide. Anyway, the response that Virginia Gallo gave, who's a member of A Bridge to Life, she said, "All I tell women in need is you have choices. I can help you with adoption, get you free medical care, and it's not at all political." And it seems like a very well thought out and very reasoned response. Like, we're not telling these women that they can't have an abortion. We're just saying, all right, you don't want to have one. We're going to facilitate you with the ability. We're going to facilitate you with the things that you need to, have a healthy pregnancy, have a healthy baby. And if you want to give it for adoption, we'll take it for adoption. We'll give it to somebody that wants it. Or if you continue to want that baby, we'll give you diapers and a crib, et cetera, necessities for having a child. I don't see where this just because they choose not to have abortion, it's anti-choice. What, the only choice that you have is a choice to have abortion? That sounds very anti-humanistic in a lot of ways. But I guess Darwin was right. Yeah, this organization seems like a wacky right-winger, giving women choices and shit, how anti-women of them specifically. And in closing, it's been clear here that any choice that these, particularly I find ultra-lefters, I know full well that there are people that are on the right that are anti, abortion in any way, shape, or form. But that's a discussion for another time. But in my particular case, I'm talking about the ultra-left here. And they view that if you give a woman an option besides abortion, you're basically saying you don't have the option to have. No, the option is still there. You can still go down to Planned Parenthood and get an abortion. I don't think it should be on tax dollars, but that's another discussion for another time. But these things, they don't mesh up very well, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to say that this choice is the right choice and that this choice is a wrong choice. And the only way that you can pretend to have any ground to stand on is you say that the only reason why that, in this case, A Bridge to Life exists is because it's supported by people that are anti-women and anti-choice. No. They're pro-woman and pro-choice. Pro-woman having a choice to either have an abortion or not to. Whether or not they agree with the abortion side of it in this circumstance is irrelevant, because in that case, if they don't agree with the pro-choice, they've already thrown their dice into the game of the side that they want to, and they're free to give money to that charity if they want to. Now, as for Peter Koo being a member of some kind of anti-woman and anti-abortion conspiracy, if you will, that argument doesn't hold any water, because all he did was simply funnel. In this case, it was $24,000, which is a very minute amount considering the amount of money that most governments work with on a regular basis. $24,000 is chump change, but that's meaning the value of it at all. But you get where I'm coming from. Now, this mentality is the mentality that you do what we do and say what we say, or you're this thing, is very dangerous in a lot of ways, because the minute that you start painting somebody that thinks differently than you as evil, you open up a lot of doors for a lot of other things that may not necessarily be the best thing in the world. And it closes off a lot of discussion that would normally happen, simply because that other person doesn't want to talk to you for fear of being labeled these things. And I know there are people out there who say, well, if you're not that thing, you shouldn't be worried about being labeled. And it doesn't matter. Once that word's thrown out there, then it's easily accessible by anybody at any time to make that argument. But anyway, I'm rambling. And in closing to this New York Post article, I found it rather informative, very surprising, especially coming from the New York Post, a typically left-leaning article in of itself. But like I said, this was the opinion page, so it wasn't necessarily top headlining news. But so starting from now on, I'll be going back to my regular schedule, barring any major life incidences again, or me being busy again. I work full-time. I have life outside of YouTube and outside of a bunch of other things that I may not necessarily like spending my time on, but I have to. So I will see you guys, let's see here, today's Monday, so I'll see you Wednesday with another video. And until then, have a good morning, afternoon, evening, and or night, and I will see you later.